Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Nitai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Mama Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. So we're continuing talking about Srila Prabhupada as the living Bhagavata. So yesterday we talked about how Srila Prabhupada was the visionary, just like the Bhagavatam is giving us vision in the dark age of Kali Yuga. So similarly, the great devotee Srila Prabhupada was a visionary himself and gave great vision to the world. And today we'll talk about Srila Prabhupada as the innovator, the one who was able to give vision, but give the spiritual vision according to time, place, and circumstance, relevant to people according to what they're going through in life. So we're reading today from Canto number 1, chapter number 9, entitled The Passing Away of Bhismadeva. And today we're reading from text number 9, so please repeat after me. Tan sametan mahabhagan upalabhya vasutama pujayamasha dharmagyo deshakala vibhagavid. Tan sametan mahabhagan upalabhya vasutama pujayamasha dharmagyo deshakala vibhagavid. Tan sametan mahabhagan upalabhya vasutama pujayamasha dharmagyo deshakala vibhagavid. Bhagan Vasutama Vasutama Ujaya Dharmagyo Deshakala Vibhagavit. Matajis. Tan sametan mahabhagan Alabhya Vasutama Dharmagyo Deshakala Vibhagavit. Tan, all of them, Sametan, assembled together, Mahabhagan, all greatly powerful, Upalabhya, having received, Vasutama, the best among the Vasus, Bhishmadev, Pujayamasha, welcomed, Dharmagna, one who knows religious principles, Desha, place, Kala, time, Vibhagavit, one who knows the adjustment of place and time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Bhismadeva, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there, for he knew perfectly the religious principles according to time and place. So before I read the purport, it's important to know the context. So the Mahabharata is 100,000 verses long, and where the Mahabharata ends, the Srimad Bhagavatam begins. So there is an overlap of the Mahabharata and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So now in this part of the Bhagavatam, the first canto, we're hearing about the things that happened right at the end of the Kurukshetra war. Kurukshetra was a battlefield, a Yuddha Kshetra, but Kurukshetra is also a dharma Kshetra. It's a place where religiousness is established. So there, as we know, 640 million people had assembled for the war. And we know at the beginning of the war, Arjuna became very bewildered, and Krishna therefore spoke Bhagavad Gita, and then the war began. So the war was going on, but the Pandavas knew that until Bhismadeva fell, there would be no chance of victory. And so they had to create some kind of strategy to annihilate Bhismadeva from the war. And therefore on the 10th day, the idea came that Bhismadeva said, I will not fight against any lady. And therefore Arjuna came in front of Bhismadeva side by side with Shikhandi. And therefore Shikhandi was shooting arrows at Bhismadeva. And he said that Shikhandi's arrows were like lotuses. They didn't do anything to Bhismadeva. But side by side with Shikhandi was Arjuna. And therefore Arjuna started launching arrows. And he said that those arrows were like thunderbolts. And Arjuna, as we know, very expert archer, he was releasing arrows like a thunderstorm. And eventually all of those arrows penetrated the body of Bhismadeva. It said that he put so many arrows through the body of Bhismadeva that you couldn't even fit 2 fingers on any part of Bhismadeva's body. That's how many arrows Arjuna had shot. But Bhismadeva, his body was so strong that none of the arrows went completely through. They just penetrated Bhismadeva's body and remained there only. So Bhismadeva was penetrated with all these arrows, and finally Bhismadeva fell. And it said he fell as though he was lying on a bed of arrows. So that's it. Bhismadeva fell. It was a turning point in the Kurukshetra war. Now, definitely Pandavas would emerge victorious. There were a few more obstacles, but basically the biggest obstacle had been removed, Bhismadeva. So Arjuna came to Bhismadeva, his worshipable Bhismadeva. So Bhismadeva said, at least you can do me one thing. I'm lying here on the bed of arrows. At least give me a pillow. So Arjuna came and with a quick another round of arrows, Bhismadeva made him a pillow. He said, I need to stay here for some time. At least make me a pillow. So Bhismadeva, he had the boon that he could decide whenever he wanted to die. So he said, I will wait for Uttarayana before I die. So generally, Uttarayana is a very auspicious time to leave the world. Because when the sun is rising, when the sun is in a certain configuration, this is called Uttarayana. And if you leave your body at that time, it said the yogis attain perfection. But in the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that actually Uttarayana has another meaning. Because Uttarayana can mean the time when the sun is rising, but Uttarayana can also mean the personality who appeared in the womb of Uttara to protect Parikshit. So on one hand, Bhismadeva says, I'm waiting for Uttarayana. Some people think it means he's waiting for the sun. But actually what he was really waiting for is for Krishna, who appeared in the womb of Parikshit to appear before him. So at the end of the war, the Kauravas had been annihilated, And just as at the beginning of the war, Krishna had to act as a counselor to Arjuna, at the end of the war of Kurukshetra, Krishna had to act as a counselor for Yudhishthira. Because just as Arjuna was bewildered in the beginning, Yudhishthira was bewildered in the end. Because Yudhishthira said, so many people have died just so that we could win this war. He was feeling very, very bad. So this time Krishna said, my words were good enough for Arjuna, but I don't know what I will say to you now. Therefore, let us go and see Bhismadeva. So Krishna told Yudhishthira, put on your finest clothes. Yudhishthira said, my finest clothes? When you're going to see somebody who's about to die, you don't dress up as though you're going to some big event with fancy clothes. Generally, you don't do that. You go in a very humble way. Krishna said, put on your best clothes. Because when Bhismadeva sees that now you are reigning in royal opulence, he will be very, very happy. So Yudhishthira went, the Pandavas went, Krishna went, and they all went to see Bhismadeva. And just as Kurukshetra was a Yuddha Kshetra, Kurukshetra was also a Dharma Kshetra, because Krishna spoke the Dharma Samvadam, the Bhagavad Gita. But also Bhismadeva at the end of his life spoke many, many instructions when Yudhishthira came. Bhismadeva spoke for 56 days. Krishna spoke for 48 minutes. Bhismadeva spoke for 56 days, instructions. You know how many verses? One whole book of the Mahabharata is Bhismadeva's instructions on the bed of arrows. And you know how many chapters are in that book? How many chapters of instructions? 365 chapters. You know how many verses? About 14 or 15,000 verses. So Bhismadeva spoke his own Bhagavatam on the battlefield at the end. And there he was giving many, many instructions. Raja Dharma, how to function as a king. Moksha Dharma, how to attain perfection. Apad Dharma, how to act in times of emergency. Anyway, so many dharmas Bhismadeva was giving, but here the verse says, Dharma Gyo. Bhismadeva was knowing all dharma, but then the verse says, Desha Karma Vibhagavit. And he knew how to communicate dharma in all different times, places, and circumstances, because at the end of his life, many, many people came to him. And Bhismadeva spoke dharma to each one of them, but he spoke in a way which was relevant to different people who came to him. So here the verse is telling us that those who are very, very wise in spiritual knowledge, they know how to communicate it to different people at different times in a way which is pure, but in a way which is simultaneously relevant. Okay, so we read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Expert religionists know perfectly well how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. All the great acharyas or religious preachers or reformers of the world executed their mission by adjustment of religious principles in terms of time and place. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world. And if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of time and place. Bhismadeva was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service. And therefore, he could receive and welcome all the powerful sages assembled there at his deathbed from all parts of the universe. He was certainly unable at that time to welcome and receive them physically because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words. And he knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although he was physically unfit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Bhismadeva knew how to communicate. See, communication is the number one life skill. Sometimes people are speaking and speaking and speaking, but nobody is listening to them because they don't know how to communicate. Like now, the Mahavakya when you're on a Zoom call is, Prabhu, you're on mute, isn't it? Sometimes you're speaking and speaking so many things. Once I was on a Zoom call, it was a very passionate management meeting. So at one point in a management meeting, sometimes you get the inspiration to give the final conclusion. So finally I spoke up and 5 minutes, I gave the final conclusion. Very passionate. And then after speaking for 5 minutes, someone said on the call, Prabhu, you're on mute. Can you say it again? That's God, Krishna. I just gave my heart there, I said everything. Now you want me to say it again. So sometimes we're speaking, but nobody is listening. Speaking and speaking so many things, but nobody is listening. Because sometimes we are just not relevant to the world. And therefore, here Srila Prabhupada is saying that if one is an expert dharma gna, if they know dharma, they should be able to communicate it to any person, at any time, at any place, and they should be able to make it relevant. We should come to the point where we can go to any forum in the world, a corporate firm, an educational firm, a government firm, any place, and be able to speak about any aspect of the Bhagavad Gita to any audience at any time and make it relevant. Because this is what it means to be a dharmagna. Not just to know, but to know how to get it across to people in a relevant way. So therefore, if you want to communicate well, the first thing you have to know is the desha, the kala, and the patra. You have to know the time, the place, and the circumstance within which you're functioning. Therefore, I was explaining yesterday, when Srila Prabhupada came to America, the first thing he said I was doing, he said I was studying the American people. You can imagine how strange everything was for Srila Prabhupada in America. Prabhupada had lived his whole life in Calcutta. I don't know what's more strange, for an American to go to India or for an Indian to come to America. I think so for an Indian to come to America is more strange. Because it's such an artificial civilization. Shri Shri Radha Banke Bihari ki jai. So Prabhupada was coming to a place where people had no culture, they had no understanding, no knowledge, no prior exposure to Srimad Bhagavatam. How was Srila Prabhupada going to communicate it to these people? When Prabhupada arrived in America, he wrote this poem. And in the very first line of the poem, he writes, Boro kripa koile Krishna, adhamer prati, Ki logiyo nilaheta kore bhagati. Ache kichu karja taba e anuman. Nahe ke no aniben e ugrastan. When Prabhupada arrives in Boston, I was just in Boston for some months. So often we would go down to the Commonwealth Pier where Prabhupada arrived. So Prabhupada, when he arrived there, he wrote this poem, Boro Kripa Koile Krishna Adha Mer Prati. Krishna, you are very kind on this fallen soul, but I don't know why you've brought me here. Ache Kichu Karja Taba, but I'm thinking you must have some purpose here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this Ugrastan, this terrible place? Rajastama guna era sabaya chan, Vasudeva katha ruchi, nahise prashan. In the very next verse, Prabhupada writes, most of the population here is absorbed in the material modes of passion and ignorance. Vasudeva katha ruchi nahese prashan. They have no taste for hearing the message of Krishna. How will I be able to make them understand? So it's very, very foreign culture. Srila Prabhupada, he was so far away from all these people in one sense. And even the ones that came forward to hear from Srila Prabhupada, they didn't know much. Like Mukunda Maharaj I was talking about yesterday, he told another story that he used to drive Srila Prabhupada around in the early days. At this time he was still Michael. So once he had taken Prabhupada to a program, and at the end of the program, they had given Srila Prabhupada a box of dates. So in the car, he was driving Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada opened the box of dates. He said, oh, these are very good dates. So Prabhupada took one of the dates and he bit half of the date. And then he gave it to Michael. So he was a young American. He had no concept of Mahaprasad. So he was thinking, why is he giving it to me? He's eaten half of it. It's got his saliva on it. It's like, I don't know if I want to eat this. But he thought, the Swami is giving it to me, so maybe I should take it. I don't want to be disrespectful. So Prabhupada gave him the Maha. So he took it. So Prabhupada said, take. So he's thinking, I don't know if I want to eat this. So then finally he decided to eat a little bit of it. And then after eating a little bit of it, he gave it back to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, I don't know who was more shocked, Michael when he got the first one or Srila Prabhupada when he got the remnants. You have to see how much they were far away from Vedic culture. Very far away. One time they took Prabhupada to a program, and in this program, as soon as Prabhupada walked in the hall, there was one person on the stage and he was in a banana suit. He was dressed as a banana and he was dancing. So Prabhupada walked in, he said, what's the meaning of this? So they said, Prabhupada, the hippies have realized that if you take banana skins and you dry them under certain conditions, and then you light the banana skin and you inhale the fumes, then it's like an intoxicant. So they're celebrating. So then the devotee said to Prabhupada, but the good news is that they're donating 10 kilos of bananas every week to the temple. But the only agreement is that they want the banana skins back. So Prabhupada said, what kind of civilization? They're giving the bananas away and they want the skins back. Prabhupada couldn't relate to it at all. Such a foreign atmosphere. When Prabhupada used to go to the store to buy the groceries, then he used to come to the checkout counter and then they would give the price. And then when they would give Prabhupada the price, he would start bargaining with them, no? Because that's what you do in India, right? You bargain. You don't just, the first price is never the right price. The person on the counter is thinking, what's this person doing? Like, there's a price here, you just pay for the price. Such a different culture. So Prabhupada was Desha Karma Vibhagavit. He understood how you adjust Krishna consciousness to make it relevant to the people of the time. And this was Prabhupada's speciality. You see, every acharya has a speciality. Jagannath Das Babaji had a speciality. Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya. What was Jagannath Das Babaji's glory? He discovered the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the world. That's a big thing. Because from that place, the Yoga Peeth, the spiritual capital of the world, from that place, Krishna consciousness is emanating all over the universe. So you may think, what's such a big thing? You discovered a place, so what? No, this is the place from which all the energy in the universe, spiritual energy, is circulating. Gaura Das Babaji, what was his speciality? Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagyamurtaye. He showed a level of renunciation that nobody else could parallel. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what was his speciality? Gaura Shakti Svarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. He was a consummate follower of the Goswamis and Rupa Goswami. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was known as the seventh Goswami. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what was his speciality? Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhave Namaha. Krishna Sambandha Vijnana. He was able to communicate knowledge of Krishna in the most scientific way. Krishna Sambandha Vijnana. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, they didn't preach Krishna consciousness as a religion. They showed it was a spiritual science. So you see, every acharya has their speciality. And Srila Prabhupada's speciality, as we talked about yesterday, Paschatya Desha Tarine, that he went to the Western world and he delivered Krishna consciousness to the Western people. Not just the Western people, but wherever he went in the world. His mission was that I should connect to the local people. When he went to Russia, he connected with the local people. When he went to China, or when his devotees went to China, they connected with the local people. Everywhere he went, he made Krishna consciousness relevant. He made it attractive and he made it accessible. Srila Prabhupada opened up Krishna consciousness for ladies. Previously, there were so many restrictions. Srila Prabhupada said, yes, of course, the ladies can go on the altar. Yes, of course, the ladies can give class. Yes, of course, the ladies can be spiritual leaders. Yes, of course, ladies can stay in the temple. These things were not done before. Srila Prabhupada was criticized. One Srila Prabhupada, I think he was in Mayapur, he was with his godbrothers. And there was some criticism because Srila Prabhupada was allowing all of his disciples to serve him, including the Matajis. And therefore Malati Mataji was cooking for Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada heard that some of his sannyasi godbrothers were criticizing that. Why is he allowing women to do so many services? When Srila Prabhupada was with all his godbrothers, he purposely called in Malati Mataji into the room. She was very, very shy, coming in a room of sannyasis. And Prabhupada called her in and started glorifying her and said, look at the service of these ladies. And then he looked at Malati and she said, she will slit her throat for me and I will slit my throat for her. That's how much of a relationship we had. Prabhupada didn't care about criticism. He wanted to make Krishna consciousness available to everyone. Srila Prabhupada made Krishna consciousness available to all social groups. No casteism, no hierarchy, no discrimination that this group is higher, this group is lower. When one devotee was in Vrindavan, Western devotee, and he went to one of the Goswami temples, as he was paying obeisances at the altar, one of the Vrindavan Goswamis, the pujaris, he said to the Western devotee, you are doing very nice. If you continue on in your bhakti, in your next life you will be born in a Brahmin family. He went back. He told Srila Prabhupada that the pujari had said this to him. Prabhupada said, go back to him and tell him that you are doing very nice service. If you carry on in your next life, you will be born in the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada made Krishna consciousness relevant to people from all nationalities. He translated his books into all languages. He spoke to the people according to their needs, their interests, and their concerns. This was the ultimate exhibition of compassion. Srila Prabhupada, he was so relevant. If you look at his teachings, he spoke to people from all religions. We should know something about all religions because we're interfacing with people in the world. Srila Prabhupada would speak to people from all backgrounds and he would connect. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking to so many different religions and philosophical traditions. Srila Prabhupada knew about all the philosophers in the world. With his disciple Shyamasundar, he had conversations about Socrates, about Plato, about Aristotle, about Carl Jung, about Sigmund Freud, all of the great philosophers, sociologists. Prabhupada knew about them. Prabhupada knew what was going on in the world. He was addressing the challenges that people are going through in their life, people are going through in society. Srila Prabhupada even knew how to adjust his language so that he could get the message across. Sometimes people criticize his translations. Oh no, it is not accurate, not an accurate translation. But they don't understand. Prabhupada wasn't just translating in a technical way. He was translating to get the message across. For example, in Bhagavad Gita 15:6, Krishna says, Natad bhashayate shuryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. In this verse, Krishna is explaining the spiritual world, and Krishna says, Natad bhashayate shuryo. There, in the spiritual world, there's no need for sun. What does Prabhupada write in the translation? In the spiritual world, there's no need for the sun, the moon, or electricity. No, electricity? There's no Sanskrit word for electricity. Where did you get that from? See, Prabhupada wasn't just translating technically. Someone will say, where is the Sanskrit for this? Prabhupada was getting the message across. In the spiritual world, there is no need for any artificial or extraneous illumination because everything is self-illuminous. So in the material world, maximum illumination apart from the sun is coming from electricity. And therefore Prabhupada writes in the translation, in the spiritual world, there's no need for electricity. Because that's what people can relate to. And therefore Srila Prabhupada didn't just get it right, he got it across. This is what a good teacher does. So, many people criticize Srila Prabhupada for adjustments that he made. But they don't realize that Srila Prabhupada was dharmagya, and therefore desha karma vibhagavit. He understood how to communicate to the people of his time. Prabhupada once told the story of a Christian preacher who was preaching to the people who were working in the coal mines. So the Christian preacher was trying to convince them to believe in Jesus. He said, you have to believe in Jesus, you have to believe in Jesus, and if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to go to hell. Just, well, what's hell like? Hell is dark. These people are coal miners. Hell is dark. Hell is cold. Hell is damp. They're looking at me, they're thinking, this is what we do every day. And then the Christian preacher said to them, and in hell there's no newspapers. Oh my God, no newspapers. We better worship Jesus. We don't want to go to hell. There's no newspapers there. So Prabhupada told this story to explain how a preacher doesn't just try to get it technically perfect. You see, now there is sometimes a mentality, it has to be technically perfect. But what's the point of being technically perfect if you don't get the message across in a relevant way? So therefore, the devotee is very expert. They know how to communicate in an expert way. And this is their compassion. So therefore, Rupa Goswami says, there are different things which spoil devotional service. One of them is niyam agraha, and the other one is niyam agraha. Remember, I was telling you yesterday, when it's a short A, it's a negation. And when it's a long A, it's an intensifier. So niyam agraha means that you neglect the rules and regulations. Then you spoil devotional service. But niyam agraha means you stick so much to the technicality of the rules and regulations that you miss the point of why they even exist in the first place. And therefore, when we're preaching Krishna consciousness, we can't compromise the principles. We can't dilute them. But at the same time, we should not preserve the details so strongly that we miss the opportunity to connect with people in a relevant way. And so this is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, to make Krishna consciousness relevant, to make Krishna consciousness inspiring, and to introduce all people from all backgrounds, desha, kala, vibhagavit, to know how to teach in a relevant way. And because Srila Prabhupada knew this science, therefore he was successful. One time, Srila Prabhupada was with his disciples, and his disciples were explaining that his godbrother said, anyone could have done it. Swamiji went to America, he spread Krishna consciousness, anyone could have done it. So Prabhupada told the story of Christopher Columbus. That Christopher Columbus had gone and he had discovered America, and then he had come back, and then there was a meeting of explorers. And the explorers said anyone could have done it. And then Christopher Columbus brought out an egg. And he sat in front of all the explorers and he said, I want one of you to stand this egg on its head. Now, how do you make an egg stand on its head? So everyone was baffled. No one knew how to do it. And then Christopher Columbus took the egg and he popped the front. And then he stood it up. And then Christopher Columbus looked at all the explorers and he said, anybody could have done, but I have done. Anybody could have done, but I have done. Therefore, Prabhupada said, anybody could have done. Anybody could have spread the Krishna consciousness movement, but I have done it. Because dharma gya desha karma vibhagavit. I understood how to teach Krishna consciousness according to time, place, and circumstance. Therefore, every devotee has to become very learned, very sensitive, very compassionate, very kind. And every devotee has to understand how to become a good communicator so we can reach the world with the message of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so yesterday we spoke about Srila Prabhupada the visionary, today Srila Prabhupada the innovator. So if anyone has any questions or anything you'd like to ask on any of these points, then happy to answer.
Thank you very much for such a wonderful talk. Would you be able to give some pointers on how to make classes relevant without compromising principles?
So how to give classes without compromising on the principles? First thing is, before you come and speak to any audience, know something about the audience. What is their need? What are they interested in? What are they concerned about? What do they need help with? What are their pain points? What's the point of speaking to a crowd if you don't understand what they need to hear, what they need help with? So first thing is study the people you are speaking to. In English we say you have to have your finger on the pulse, isn't it? Like if you go to Ayurvedic, all they need to do is put 2 fingers on your hand and they'll just close their eyes and within a few moments they understand what your medical condition is. So in English we have the term, have your finger on the pulse. Because the pulse is revealing everything that's going on. So many devotees, we are so disconnected from reality. Once we were in a university program, it was packed, 500 people in the arena. So one brahmachari was giving the talk, and in the middle of it, he started saying, and the president so-and-so, and the president so-and-so. And then somebody put their hand up and said, he was the president 5 years ago. He's not the president anymore. I said, oh my God, this person doesn't even know what's going on in the world. We have no idea. How many of us would know what are the main headlines in the world right now? What are people talking about? If we don't know what's going on in the world, how will we be relevant? So the first thing is people won't hear you if you don't hear them, right? When you listen to people, then they'll be more likely to listen to you. Why did Krishna in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't say anything? Krishna says, Vedaham samatitani vartamana nicharjuna. I know past, present, future, I know all living beings. And in the first chapter of the Gita, Krishna is just listening. He already knows everything. Why is he listening? Because he's teaching us, unless you listen to people, why will they listen to you? So the first thing is, if you want to be relevant, probably most important thing is, listen to people. And then you don't need to compromise anything, because you'll see that actually everything that everyone is looking for is found in the Gita. The top top 3 questions that people have in the world today is, what is my purpose? How can I find love? And how can I have better mental health? Dharma, bhakti, and sattva. If we wanted to choose 3 major teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, dharma, bhakti, and sattva would probably be the 3 major teachings. Dharma, you want to know what is your purpose? Here you go, dharma. You want to know how to find love? Here you go, the whole book is about bhakti. You want to know how to have better mental health? Here you go, sattva. Live in goodness. What everyone is looking for in the world, we have it. We don't have to compromise. We just have to teach it in a language that people understand. So therefore, sometimes we give wonderful classes to a world that doesn't exist anymore. It's just not relevant to the world anymore. Great philosophy is not relevant to the world. So therefore, we just have to listen better and then study well. If you study well and you listen deeply, to make the connection is not difficult. It's very easy. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Once one person had told me that you should never give free advices to anyone because they don't know you. So after that, what happened to me? Whenever some person come to me and I started giving free advices, I started feeling negative. It's so disturbing, especially after becoming a learner. There are so many advices I come. So it's very disturbing. On the other side, I feel like that these advices may be coming from Krishna. Krishna is trying to give me to them. So hard for me to accept that. So how do I take it?
Are you talking about accepting advice or giving advice? Accepting advice. Okay. As one advances in devotional service, their humility increases. And when your humility increases, it means you are able to learn from everyone and everything. Srila Prabhupada, when he was sick, I think in 1967, it was Thanksgiving weekend. It's like a holiday in America, so there were no doctors. So finally they found one doctor, he came. So the doctor was a little very eccentric, he was joking, everyone was wondering, is he really a doctor? Anyway, he got his stethoscope, he examined Prabhupada, and then he went into the next room and he goes, the old man is fine. The old man is fine. He just prays too much. He needs to go out and walk a little bit. He prays too much. He just needs to go out and walk a little bit. So Prabhupada was in the next room. Prabhupada heard him. Prabhupada said, Krishna is speaking through him. And from that day, Prabhupada started doing a morning walk every day. Someone will say, who's this guy? He's just some doctor. He's not even qualified. Prabhupada heard Krishna through him. So you see, Krishna can speak to you through anyone. Krishna can speak to you through any situation. And as one becomes more humble and more spiritually in tune, then they can find good in everyone's words. Even a broken clock tells the right time twice a day. So therefore, even when this Ramachandra Puri was criticizing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took something good from it. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Every day he would go down to the Jalangi when he was in Mayapur. And every day there was this one person who would just criticize like anything. You are like this. Why don't you guys get a job? You are just not doing anything practical. Just shout and shout and shout every day. One day, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came and he wasn't there. So he said to the devotee, where is that person who's always criticizing? He said, oh no, Guru Maharaj, he passed away. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati looked down, he said, oh, that is a great misfortune. So everyone was thinking, it's great, this guy isn't here anymore. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, he was sent by Krishna to keep me humble. He was sent by Krishna to keep me humble. Therefore, as one advances in spiritual life and their humility increases, instead of fighting the world, instead of defending themselves, instead of trying to shut everyone and everything else out there, everything is good. It's all coming from Krishna. I just need to know how to use it in the right way. So therefore, as you advance, you can take advice from everyone. It doesn't mean you necessarily follow everything that everyone says, but you can take something good from everything that is directed towards you, even criticism sometimes. Sometimes critical people may tell you things or may indicate things to you that your friends would never tell you. So it's good actually, sometimes. Not too much, but a little bit. So like that, you have to learn how to take something good from everyone. All right? Yes.
While performing your dharma, should you love it?
Should you?
Like love,
Should you like it?
love it, right?
Love it. Should you love your dharma? See, each of us have a personality. Each of us have a natural situation in our life. Therefore, I was quoting yesterday, Krishna says, Shreyan Swadharma Viguna. One should find their own dharma. So when you're in your dharma, you will naturally feel more comfortable. You will naturally feel more peaceful. But the only way you can love your dharma is when you use your dharma in service. If you're in your dharma, but you only use it selfishly, you'll never really love your dharma. If you really want to experience love from your dharma, then what you have to do is situate yourself correctly according to your personality and your psychophysical nature, and then you need to use that dharma in service to Krishna, in service to others. Dharma is never meant to be selfish. Dharma is always meant to be selfless. And so many people out there in the world are in their dharma. Yesterday we went to Absa Bank. So many people there are in their dharma. They're in their dharma. They're meant to be in the corporate world. They're meant to be making money. They're meant to be doing what they're doing. But it doesn't mean they're loving it and they're experiencing joy and happiness. Some of those people are the most miserable people in the world. Because you can be in your dharma and still be miserable if you don't use your dharma in service. Therefore, yes, you're meant to love your dharma. And how do you love your dharma? You always use it in service to Krishna. Does that help? All right. Yes. At the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So you know like how you explained that every acharya has a speciality. So does this mean as Kali Yuga progresses, there will be another Acharya?
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada established the Krishna consciousness movement, and his teachings will remain the basis for all generations to come. You have to understand what is the difference between a guru and an acharya. Every acharya is a guru, but every guru is not an acharya. A guru teaches his disciples, but an acharya will teach generations of disciples. A guru will protect his disciples, but an acharya will protect the whole sampradaya. A guru makes disciples, but an acharya is so powerful that they make many others who can become gurus. Therefore, there can be many gurus. There should be many gurus. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said everyone in the Krishna consciousness movement should become a guru. Jadedeka Tadekaha Krishna Upadesh Amara Agyaya Guru Hanatara Edesh. This verse is actually one of Srila Prabhupada's most quoted verses. He says, everyone, quoting Mahaprabhu, everyone on my order should become a guru. But the guru becomes a guru because they follow the acharya. So Srila Prabhupada said everyone should become guru. But he didn't say one of you will become the acharya. He said no, everyone can become guru because the guru follows the acharya. And so in that way, yes, there will be many generations of gurus to come. We need many gurus. But Srila Prabhupada's position as the acharya will always remain unique like that. Is that okay? Anyone else? Last question? It's okay. Last question. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. We said we should preach according to time, place, and circumstances. So, one example, like at the moment, like trying to expand the movement. So, concentration is that we should preach more to the youth. So, now I'll just give two practical examples so you can understand my question. One is that we will have more youth seminars to encourage the youth. And the second thing is like, if there is a different committees, managing committees, we want youth to be in those committees since we're trying to encourage the youth. Now, does this mean that seniors should not be allowed in the youth seminars, or does it mean that seniors should not be allowed in any committees? Like in the karmic world, they retire the senior people. So it's spiritual work in a spiritual organization. Mm-hmm. Should we also retire the seniors and let youth only manage everything or attend the seminars? Should the seniors be sidelined?
Thank you so much. In Krishna consciousness, nobody is sidelined. In Krishna consciousness, every service that you do is a preparation for a bigger service. Sometimes people think, I'm the temple president. Now I'm not temple president. What's next? But there's a bigger service. So everyone should be growing. Everyone should be rising. And when someone graduates out of a management position because they're of an older generation, they have something wonderful, some valuable thing to give as an advisor, as a support, as a counselor, as a mother. A community requires all the generations. The young generation, the old generation, every generation provides something unique. So therefore, it's not about sidelining anyone, but it's about seeing at this stage in my life, what is the best offering, what is the best contribution that I can make. So, yes, there must be succession. You must empower. Srila Prabhupada empowered 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It's amazing. If you go to New Vrindavan, I don't know if you've been to New Vrindavan. If you go to New Vrindavan and you see the palace of gold, what they made for Srila Prabhupada, this was made by 18 and 19-year-olds. When they arrived in New Vrindavan, they didn't even know how to mix cement. They went to a library to get a book on construction of how to mix cement. And they began the construction of Prabhupada's palace. If you look at that building, I mean, it's phenomenal. You can't imagine how did anyone make this? Forget about 18 and 19-year-olds who knew nothing. Therefore, if you empower people, if you encourage people, and if young people take the risk, the movement can expand like anything. But perhaps what was lacking in that generation was lots of youthful energy, but it was perhaps lacking the maturity of elders. And therefore you see our movement expanded like anything, but then it also suffered many, many problems because there wasn't the maturity of the elders. So you need the energy of the youngers and you need the maturity of the elders. And when you bring that together, that's amazing. But what often happens in our movement is that the younger people don't give their energy and don't take up the responsibility, and the older people hold on to management positions rather than giving more advice and moving on to other things, and therefore the movement becomes stagnant. Therefore, that combination, youthful energy and the guidance of elders, is a very good combination. Then it works. So nobody is sidelined. Everyone is moving higher in their service. And don't think the heights of service in ISKCON is having a managerial position. Sometimes you can do a better service once you're out of the managerial position. Sometimes there's a notion in ISKCON that once you've achieved the position, there's no higher. There's nothing higher than that. No. You can also graduate from the position and be a preacher, be a guide, be a mother. That's very powerful. So yes, we want to keep everyone engaged. Everyone is valuable. All right, thank you very much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.